Salutations, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Great Journey,
A
great journey.
our Halo-centric podcast where every week we do a deep dive into the Halo universe. I'm your host, Will. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Charlie, Tom, and James. Fortunately, Jim and Robbie, they couldn't meet. They couldn't make it tonight. But how is everybody doing today?
Doing good. I'm excited. Things are getting a little spicy in the book.
Yeah. So last week we started diving into Eric Nylund's seminal sci-fi novel, Halo: The Fall of Reach. We did chapters 1 through 10. Quick recap: we got introduced to Halsey, the Spartan 2 program, how they basically got kidnapped, these kids. They trained them into super soldiers, and that's kind of where we left off. And this week we're going to be going into chapters 10 through 18.
Yep.
So, synopsis of chapter 10. The Spartan team is hidden in the rebel transport. They're being delivered in secret to the rebel base amid the asteroid belt. Kelly hijacks the ship. They look at the manifest. Looking at the manifest, they're able to see some high quality goods, so they decide to track those. They're trying to get to a high level rebel leader, kidnap him, so they can get info on the rebels. They infiltrate the base. They end up capturing him, killing some guards. On their way out, they kill a bunch of dock workers that they're not armed. And so the chief kind of feels bad about that. And that's how chapter 1 ends. And then for chapter 11, that's how chapter 10 ends. For chapter 11, the synopsis is all the Spartans are brought to a briefing, and they're greeted by Vice Admiral Stanforth and his AI Beowulf. They're told that a mysterious object came to range of the human colony on a planet Harvest. After losing contact with Harvest, a scout ship was sent to investigate, but it too was lost. Upon sending further backup, they found that Harvest was not attacked. That Harvest was attacked and lost, an entire planet destroyed. Not only that, but the object was actually a foreign ship that immediately began to attack, losing 2 frigates to destroyers. Hercules was able to escape from this battle, and it became immensely clear that humanity has made contact with non-human life. Their technology is far superior, and they do not come peacefully. A broadcast from the foreign invaders indicate that they call themselves the Covenant, and that they have been studying humanity for some time. The Spartans now know their true purpose, and they will be further supported in their new mjolnir armor. However, they will have to proceed without Chief Mendez, who will leave to train the next group of Spartans. Without knowing it, this is the last time that John sees Mendez. So those are chapter 10 and 11. Any thoughts?
Yep. So we're doubling up here. Chapters, trying to keep the discussion flowing. I guess starting out with chapter 10, it was the first real action that we got to view our Spartans in. It's their first mission.
And if I'm not wrong, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, Charlie.
I was just going to say that I think it went really well. Obviously, they infiltrated it. They got exactly what they needed. Dock workers and explosions aside, they were able to, successfully complete their first mission. It was cool.
Yeah, and if I'm not wrong, I'm pretty sure they're either 14 or 15 when they get sent out to this first mission. It basically goes flawlessly, except for the chief does get shot and he does get hit.
Pretty badly too.
Yeah. But they're able to get out with I don't have his name written down, but the rebel commander that they were after. The thing that sticks out to me the most is, when they explode the docks and there's a massive vacuum pulling people out into space. The chief is looking over and he does think about, like, is this the right thing? But then he kind of like pushes that away and he's like, we completed the mission. That's what we're supposed to do. And he can't really, I think he's kind of like trained, to push that stuff aside. I wonder if that kind of stuff comes back later in Halo fiction later on, if he's still going to be able to push those kind of stuff, to the side and still do the mission.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially since you called out his age, right? Like, they were
Yeah.
technically very, very young, but all they've known for majority of their life now is their training. So yeah, that is very interesting.
Am I the only one that thought that this was like a crazy fucking mission for people who had like just finished training?
Oh yeah,
Like they
Yeah.
threw them by themselves into basically like a hostile city, capture the leader of the city, bring him out alive with like 4 people, and like that's
yeah.
it.
No backup.
Yeah.
No
No
idea
backup.
where they're really at. No, like 100%,
N-
right?
no concrete escape plans. They're basically like, you get there, you got to figure out how you're going to get out.
Yeah, which
And what's
I
also
guess
kind of crazy is that besides the Master Chief who killed that ODST guy that was sparring with him at the gym, I'm pretty sure the other crew members, which I believe was Kelly, Linda, and Sam, they haven't killed a single person before this day. And they take out, at least 11 soldiers throughout this chapter.
yeah, and they seem completely fine with it, as far as we know.
I look at it this way.
Is
I
it?
mean, these are the UNSC's or ONI's prized possessions. They're the most disciplined fighters that they're able to produce in this amount of time. Essentially got to start somewhere, but they've proven in recent chat or in previous chapters that they are a badass team. They can
Yeah.
pull off things, very easily, very efficiently. So I think that they essentially got to spread their wings here, and they kicked ass.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
a
really
testament to their
shows.
abilities.
Yeah, it shows, all the training that they went through, the augmentations, it all worked. Because putting a bunch of normal 14-year-olds and sending them on this kind of mission, if it was just like normal people, they wouldn't be able to do what they did and make it out and everything.
Yeah, and to add to that, well, one, we forgot Fred as part of this fire team. There was 5 of them
Oh,
on this
yep.
mission. But
Right.
to add to
Did we forget
that,
Fred?
right? Like it almost didn't go well, right? You almost lost your prize, Master Chief there. Or he's not promoted yet. So his petty officer, 117, right? Like you almost lost him in this mission, right? So were they fully ready? Like one could argue maybe not. They got it done and they do
Yeah.
what Spartans do, but it almost didn't work out.
Yeah, and a
Yeah,
loss
that's a
of
good
one
point.
is a big loss for them, considering how many people do they have left? Like
30-ish.
operational 30-ish people. Like, yeah, you're right.
Yep.
A loss of
Yep.
one is a big impact.
So how about chapter 11? It you know they have the first reports. They get taken into this room, all top secret, and they get shown this video footage of basically first contact with an alien race. What are your thoughts?
I was gonna say, like, yeah, like it's kind of neat that there was so much previous backstory and a kind of building on the current conflict that humans were having at this moment, and then this other thing comes into play, and obviously we know kind of the humans bound together to kind of fight the covenant, um, but yeah, it really is a demonstration of, okay, this other we're not the most intelligent or advanced species anymore. We're really, really actually outnumbered and very, you know, uh, lacking a lot of the technology that the Covenant have.
Yeah. This is where we find out that they call themselves the Covenant. Um, and yeah, this is just the introduction of their technology, the superiority. And it's like, all right, shit's about to go down. So chapter 12, I mean, does anybody have anything else? It's chapter 11 was kind of a short chapter. Does anybody have anything else they want to say about it?
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
I really like this chapter a lot. I think it almost read almost like a horror sort of
Oh
Yeah.
my God, yo,
story.
I was
It was
thinking the same thing.
it had a very ominous vibes, and I just thought of this right now, so I'm sorry if it kind of goes weird, but it almost reminds me of that one scene in Signs where it's like the home video, and then they show it down an alley, and you see the alien
Yep.
like walk
Yes.
past, and that's like your first introduction to what the alien looks like, and
Yes. That scene
in
made my
in this
heart like skip a beat.
yep, in this chapter they get like a blurry image of this vessel, right? Then it comes into view once they get more information, and you realize it's actually a alien ship. I had to think what people were thinking at that point. It's insane. You've run into an alien species, and not only that, they've completely wiped out a planet.
Yep.
Um,
Their first like communication with you is your destruction is the will of the gods and we are their instrument. Like it doesn't get any harder than that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then they send you a broadcast in your own language, which means that
Right? Yeah.
they were like they knew that we existed, that they were studying us. You know, it I it definitely gave me like goosebumps in a way. Like it
Yeah.
almost it felt like a scary novel at this point. At least
Yeah.
this
Hmm.
chapter.
Especially with the AI that was like all hooded and looked like a ghost. I like
But
that guy.
Mhm.
Beowulf, I think was
Beowulf. Yes, Beowulf.
we ran in what we were introduced here to it's Admiral Stanforth, yeah, and his AI Beowulf, which they apparently seem like they don't have good relationship. There was some quote or something in there where like Stanforth was shooting Beowulf like some some glances,
Yeah. I think Beowulf like shut the broadcast off early or something.
You know what
I
it
can't
is?
remember.
Wasn't Beowulf actually like an Oni AI
Oh.
and not
Oh, it's not
necessarily
his.
uh
Get it?
I don't think it was Stanford. I think that AI was there just representing Oni, if I'm
Yep.
remembering
Yep.
correctly.
Yeah,
So this
here's a
is our
quote.
first. Okay.
Sorry, let me just read this real quick. It says,
Hmm.
quote, and this is Beowulf, Vice Admiral Stanforth said as he gestured to the ghostly creature. Stanforth's voice was calm, but distaste was evident on his face. He is our AI attaché with the Office of Naval Intelligence. So yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Will, you're
So this is
spot
our
on.
first
He is actually
interaction.
ONI.
This is our first interaction with somebody actually from ONI, and he is a literal ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super
What
intelligent
what is,
for ghost.
what is Beowulf in mythology or lore or whatever? Isn't he
I'm gonna look it up.
Like a Norse hero. I don't know the details, but he was like a Norse hero, killed a monster, or no, yeah, killed a monster. That's all I know.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, like he goes to kill a monster and he actually, I mean, if I'm remembering it correctly, I mean, instead of killing the monster, he makes love with the monster and has a kid, and the
what?
kid's another monster.
All right,
I mean, I mean, that's what I remember from Beowulf.
all right. That would be. It's certainly a memorable
Yeah.
story. You can see why it made its way through the ages.
Um,
If he
yeah, but
kills
that's like,
monsters, that could be a tie here to us fighting monsters in space. I don't know. I gotta do some
I don't know.
research on
uh,
So
Beowulf.
Beowulf collects monsters. Um, does this Beowulf, is he in bed with the aliens? Is that what this is trying to say?
We gotta do some fact checking on Will's.
yeah, I mean,
I'm reading
Well,
Wikipedia right now, and I
what,
don't get to the
what?
I don't get to that part yet, but we can move
Yeah,
on. We can move on. I think we're doing it a little bit.
I mean, I said, like if I'm remembering correctly, that's what I remember about Beowulf. Um,
You must have been reading a little bit of fan fiction there.
so one last thing about chapter 11 is we kind of get a little hints of why the aliens are attacking us. They make some hints about, this is the will of the gods, and so it's like, okay, these aliens have some sort of religion, and obviously humanity is not compatible with whatever they believe with this religion.
That's a good point. I wonder if that's why they studied humans for so long before making an appearance, right? Like, are they going to be compatible? Can we convert them potentially?
Yeah, right. Because they have a whole bunch of other. We learn later on that they have a whole bunch of other aliens as a part of
Yeah,
that covenant. Why
Yeah.
couldn't humans be a
yep,
part of that covenant?
yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's going to come up later on in the Halo, as we dive deeper into the Halo universe, because the Covenant does go around incorporating different races into, their Covenant, and I wonder if there's a reason why they're like hard pass on humanity. We got to kill them all.
That makes a really, really interesting point. The Covenant is so advanced that they've met and assimilated other races. Like, they're that advanced, right? It's not even just like,
Yep,
oh, it's one race that has, or one species that has, like, super intelligence, right? They met other
yep, yep.
species and incorporated all of them.
yeah,
yeah. And as previous chapters have shown us that their technology and space travel is superior to us, so they're definitely on the upper hand right now, or have the upper hand.
Yep. I think, I think when we get into the next couple chapters, I think it becomes way more obvious too.
So moving on to chapter 12, the synopsis is the Spartans are on board the UNSC frigate Commonwealth en route to a military testing facility on planet Chi 4 to find what Project Mjolnir is all about. However, they come across a Covenant ship and are immediately engaged. The freighter is heavily damaged despite landing direct hits on the enemy ship, and it becomes clear, with the Covenant shields and tracking plasma lasers, that the UNSC is very outclassed, even by a small ship. In final desperation, Captain Wallace sacrifices his longsword fighters to escape the enemy and is able to get Dr. Halsey and her Spartans to the planet to continue their mission. And then the synopsis for chapter 13. The Spartans are introduced to Project Mjolnir, individually designed combat suits that will enhance their fighting abilities. In essence, the suits can react based on thoughts alone. The enhanced reaction and speeds of the suit were built around the Spartans' physical modifications. Normal humans would not be able to handle the armor. The Spartans get acclimated to their new suits and test the efficient comm systems within their helmets. However, they are cut short when we find out the Covenant ship has returned and headed for the Commonwealth. And with this news, the Spartans will be using the new armor immediately.
You maybe want to do chapter 14 too. It kind of wraps up
Yeah,
this whole
yeah,
thing.
let's do that. Yeah, that's a good idea. The Spartans hop on board a Pelican and take off to intercept the Covenant ship. They plan to use their suit thruster packs to launch through space, attach to the ship, and somehow enter it and plant a nuclear bomb. Chief leads the way, recognizes the ship's shields drop when it fires its plasma, and he rendezvous at the damaged opening with Kelly and Sam. They make their way through the ship and come upon a few jackals along the way. In one firefight, Sam, protecting the chief, takes a shot to the side and is wounded. They come upon the ship's reactor and they set their warheads for timed detonation. However, Chief must make his first tough choice as a leader. Leave Sam behind to cover their retreat. His suit is damaged and will not survive the decompression of space on their return. They say goodbye, and Chief and Kelly are able to escape the ship as it explodes behind him. They have proven that the Covenant aren't invincible, but at what cost?
Yeah, so we finally lose one of our actual Spartans that survived here
Yes.
initially.
Yeah.
I just thought that was another really cool chapter. We obviously skipped over you there, but yeah, chapter 14 where they take the fight to the Covenant in their own ship. They launch through space, detonate a bomb. That's again a scene I think you would see possibly in a game. It almost felt like you're fighting in the game, and it
Yeah.
is our actual first interactions with our Spartans and a Covenant creature, which I think
Yep.
they only ran into jackals here, a few of them. But yeah,
Do we know that they're jackals? What do they? Do they have a name for them,
I don't think
or
they
do we
named them
just
yet. I
we
think
as people just know that
no,
I
they're
think
jackals?
they described them, right?
Yeah. They
I
describe
think
him as kind of like the carrion birds on reach, I think is one of the things they describe them. So like a
Yeah.
Okay,
vulture. And they also say they
it,
had one of them had like a shield on his arm, which the jackals like to carry those little shield things on their arms.
gotcha. Okay, because I wasn't sure who exactly they were.
Yeah, they
right,
didn't name them in that chapter.
yeah, they didn't physically say like this is Covenant or this is Jackal. I just
Gotcha.
deduced it by the description of the creature.
Yeah, they're basically just describing it like the way Eric writes it. It's just like, they're encountering these creatures and they don't really know what they are, and they're kind of just like describing it. But like you can kind of deduce what they are just based on, how Eric describes the different creatures, what they have on them and what weapons they're using.
Yeah. I'll call out here a kind of hat tip towards Spartans not just only being physically capable and superior to most Marines, but their intelligence as well, right? They kind of jetpack themselves into space to try to rendezvous with this ship and time it correctly. And then they were running out of time with the shield, the energy shield. So they realize, oh, John realizes when it shoots, we have some time to get in there, but we don't have many opportunities for that. It just calls out they're also intelligently, um, at least somewhat superior than probably most, at least on the
Oh,
problem solving side.
yeah. Just going back to chapter 12 real quick. They bring up again about how much the Master Chief hates being like on out in space on a ship.
Yeah,
How helpless he feels. This is, I think, the second time. I think in the very first chapter, um, he brings that up, and then they bring it up again here, where it's just like he hates it, um, being on a ship, feeling so helpless, not being able to do anything.
yeah, he definitely hates not being the one in control, right? He has
Yeah.
no influence over what's going to happen. He's just a bystander, and he hates that feeling.
And another thing I find is super interesting is in chapter 13, they're trying out their new suits. Um, and I mean, these kids are already extremely fast, extremely strong. And the way Eric describes it, like, these suits like quadruple their speed, quadruple their strength. So they're basically like super humans when they put on the
Yep.
suits. It's also interesting how he describes how like they've had normal unaugmented people try on the suits, and it literally crushes their bones into nothing because their body isn't able to withstand the kind of forces that the suit puts on the body.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what did they have, like a video or something where I don't know. They did describe like somebody literally getting like fucked up and on a suit
Yeah,
and acting it.
I yeah, basically like he breaks his arm, I think, and then just basically just like writhes in pain to death, just shaking because the suit's just destroying his body.
And John's like, okay, cool, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Me next.
Well,
Yeah.
here real quickly, there's another reference I started here. Dr. Halsey allowed herself a tiny smile. She surveyed them, and finally she turned to John. "You've always been lucky, John." She said, "Let's go." Like she kind of pushed him to try first,
Okay.
but
So
again,
it was like more an order.
touching on the luck aspect. There you go. You've always been lucky. Um, yep.
Uh,
I think it's just cool that like it proved in this chapter that their armor essentially reacts by thought alone. They really don't have to like move. They think and they move themselves. That's interesting. I didn't know
Yeah.
that in the lore.
And it kind
This
of, I think more in chapter 13, or sorry, 14, it comes out a bit more of they're so not used to like the reaction time. Like things seem off to John's, particularly of like how he's wanting to react and kind of like what's happening and what he sees and versus kind of what he wants to happen. It's almost like in slow motion a lot of those interactions.
I mean, they're basically superheroes.
yeah. Yep.
Like the way that they Eric described them beforehand, they were pretty much superhumans. And then now with the suits, they've just it seems incomprehensible to me how much faster, how much stronger, whatever they actually are. They've kind of transcended into this superhero status with these suits. It seems like to me.
Yeah, when you can launch through space and grab onto a
Yeah.
moving ship and detonate it, and it's cool.
Yeah. And they're also super smart. I think they make mention of like the chief like changing his calculations to land on the ship, like while he's trying to intercept it. just doing it in his head, like, if I move this way, I'll run into it. They're literally just like superhumans.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring
So
up in that scene, sorry, Will. I want to just bring up real quick that like it wasn't just like I think it was Chief, Sam, and Kelly landed in the ship, so there was like three of them or something. But I think they launched all of the Spartans at this ship, and they were like, "If you miss the ship, like lock down, and we'll come pick you up later," sort of thing. They never really mentioned what happened to the vast majority of Spartans that didn't get through the shield and lock into the ship. You know, they're just kind of
I,
floating in space right now.
I think they had to go pick them up. I think you would hope, right?
Obviously, because I know that
Um,
there were other Spartan twos in the story of Halo, but
so the last thing I want to touch on is just Sam and him sacrificing himself for John. It's kind of really sad, and like something that really hits me. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but when John tells Kelly, like, don't look back, Eric says something along the lines like, in reality, John's like telling himself not to look back because he feels like if he did look back, he would just stay with Sam.
yeah, I have the quote. I have the quote right here.
Yeah, go ahead, read it.
Yeah, it says, "The truth was, it was John who didn't dare look back. If he had, he would have stayed with Sam. Better to die with a friend than leave him behind. But as much as he wanted to fight and die alongside his friend, he had to set an example for the rest of the Spartans and live to fight another day."
Yeah, it's just sad because literally a few chapters ago, they're like freaking 7-year-olds doing the obstacle course, and it's
Mhm.
Sam and Kelly where that first day of training, John, just wants to win by himself, and he doesn't care about Sam and Kelly. The next day, when they lose, they don't get the ice cream and everything. And the next day, John learns to work together with Sam and Kelly, and they, win first place. And it's like a few chapters later, Sam dies for his friend. It's just sad.
Yeah. It almost feels like this is like also the first real like glimpse of humanity in John. Because before John was just like this winning machine. Like I need to
Yeah,
win, I have to win. And this was like the first glimpse we get that's like, if it really was up to me, I would lose and die here with my friend.
yeah. I mean, it's like they're family. Like these kids, they're all family for each other.
I
It's
Yeah.
mean,
the
they
only people
literally
they
told
really
him.
have.
They told him, right? This is your new family. And
Yep.
Hmm.
Sam, particularly, right? Sam and Kelly were his first teammates in the
Yep.
initial groups, and so they, yeah, there was a lot of bonding between John and Sam.
And this kind of shows us that even in the suit, they're not invincible because
Right.
he just got shot up by a freaking jackal and gets, I mean, taken out. So kind of also shows like the Covenant have super advanced weapons, and if the Spartans are not careful, they will get killed.
Yep.
Yeah,
Anything? Anybody want to add anything else about these 3 chapters before we move on?
yeah, I guess just a real quick touch on the last point here, adding to what you just said, is it's kind of cool to read Chief in in a book format because you can get to into the mind of what he's thinking, and like we were saying, like he obviously feels like he wants to stay behind. He wants to fight alongside Sam. But outwardly, what he says is like, Sam, you have to stay here and hold them off. That's an order. So like, that's something you might see in the game. You see the outward Master Chief who's straight up.
Mhm.
Oh, there was another quote in here that I marked there.
Yeah.
I think it was Halsey was like, you can't just launch through space and attach to a ship. And I think John's one quote was like, I don't miss. And I'm like, that's a Master Chief quote right there. I
Yep.
don't
Yep.
miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is to say that, like, we get the quotes from Chief here. We get to see him being, Mr. Soldier, but in the same aspect, we get to see what he's thinking. That he is a human. So, and to both of their credit, he was able to give that hard order. Sam was also like straight up like, yep, you're right. I got to stay here and I got to die because, you know, won't make it back. So,
Yep. All right. So the synopsis for chapter 15. We are now 27 years on from first contact, and we are introduced to William Lovell and his remote outpost at the corner of the universe. His job is simple: send out probes into slipstream space and look for any anomalies, whether it's rebels, pirates, or more importantly, Covenant. Lovell knows why patrolling for the Covenant is important. While serving under Admiral Cole, he had seen the destruction of many planets and colonies. At this point, the Covenant have wiped out all of the outer colonies and appear to be making their way towards Earth, which is why it is revealed that all UNSC personnel must abide by the new Cole Protocol, a list of protective measures to prevent sensitive data, especially the location of Earth or its colonies, from falling into the hands of the Covenant. Lovell thinks this section of space is safe, is then surprised to find his slipstream probes returning ominous information, an incredibly large mass moving towards his base. Thinking it is too large to be a ship and fearing any continued mess ups, he disregards his protocol, ignores the information, and only sends the data to the UNSC astrophysicians or physicists. And then the synopsis for chapter 16. We meet Jacob Keyes once again, now a commander of the brand new UNSC destroyer Iroquois. While on patrol around the Sigma Octanus system, he comes across the slipstream data produced by Lovell at his outpost. Curious about the mysterious object coming their way, he recalls an astrophysicist journal created by none other than Dr. Halsey, whom he was assigned to chauffeur years before. The journal, which states
Chauffeur.
that smaller objects chauffeur, which states that smaller objects grouped closer together in slipstream may appear as a larger mass, leads him to deduce that the Covenant are indeed en route. He raises Admiral Stanforth on FleetCom to come for reinforcements, but it is likely that the Iroquois is on their own in the meantime. The ships indeed emerge from slip space, 2 frigates, a destroyer, and a carrier. In desperation, Keyes orders the ships on a direct collision course with the Covenant destroyer. I want to do a quick correction on the synopsis I just read, and I think
Okay.
I think this is a correction. The astrophysics journal that Captain Keyes, well, at this time Commander Keyes, reads I don't think that's from Halsey. If I'm remembering correctly, it's from one of the Spartans that failed augmentation. The dude, I think his name was like Fakwa or something like that.
Fahad.
Fahad. I think it's
Yeah,
Fahad
that
yeah.
is the author, Lieutenant Commander Fahad
Yeah. Which I
034.
think
Oh,
is when I was reading this, I thought this was funny because our first episode, we were like, yeah, no, they're
Yeah,
taking these kids out to
I told
pasture.
him
They're
yeah,
not
he dump him in the space.
Oh, you're
no,
right.
so it
That
looks
Actually, I
is a
like
read.
very
yeah.
good point. Thank you for
Yeah.
calling that out.
Wait.
So
So
yeah,
we were just
looking for this
talking
group.
last. We were talking last week. Is Fahad ever gonna make uh an appearance once again? And
Appearance.
he just did.
Yeah,
27 years later, an astrophysicist. Yeah.
yeah. Last time we saw him, he was he was shaking uncontrollably in a wheelchair when they
Yeah.
took him away. So he's still kicking.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, it says the paper had initially sparked his interest because of its author. He had never forgotten his first assignment with Dr. Catherine Halsey or the names of any of the children they had observed.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it says author was Lieutenant Commander Fahad 034. Nice. Yeah, I will stand corrected on that one. Good job, Will.
Yeah, I missed
Yeah,
that
no problem, man.
when I first read it.
So
Anyway,
chat. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I really liked this one-off chapter 15 where we are on a random research scanning outpost with Mr. William Lavelle. This kind of like he sounds like a fuck up or an idiot,
Yeah,
in a way. He's just out there biding his time. He apparently got demoted to this position, and he's kind of has this important job of scanning the universe, but he could care less about it, in a way. And comes across, this information. I just thought it was cool, like kind of like sidebarred here into a different character, and allowed us to see it from their perspective instead of Catherine Halsey, or instead of Keys, or instead of Chief. We just got this random character in his little corner of space. But I thought that was a
yeah.
cool way to do
He's just going through the motions.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And 16, 17, and 18 as well. Like it is more, the story is more than just John 117 and the Spartan group, right? It is really building the universe and of what is Halo. And I
What you
really like that.
really, yeah, what I really get from William is he's kind of showing a normal person's perspective on how the war is going, and it
Yep.
looks like it hasn't really been going good for the last 27 years. It looks like things are going down the drain. He talks about the morale at the USNC, and it's just not looking good. And he seems like a guy that's kind of just given up. Um, but yeah, I just like that perspective of how the war is going from a normal person, not like a
Yeah.
Spartan
yeah.
or a commander. You know,
I will say
It,
it is interesting that in all that time they didn't discover this pattern earlier, right? Like
hmm
it still took them that long to say, oh yeah, they can travel in slipstream close enough together that it looks like one large object. I
yeah,
will also throw this out there. It's not really touched on, but I'm surprised that the Covenant's technology hasn't like drastically, even exponentially, gotten better in 27 years. If you look at our own technology as humans and how quickly we've evolved things in 27 years, I don't know. I'm kind of expecting even more badass kind of things out of the Covenant. Go ahead, Charlie.
Well, we see in this chapter again, like his job is to send these probes out into a slipstream, but it was explained to us that they come out of slipstream and they can be right where they were. They can come out of slipstream and they're like hundreds of thousands, millions of miles away. They still don't have a great grasp on slipstream. Clearly,
Yep.
humanity. I'm saying. So
Yeah, they talk about
and
how
this is
the
this is
covenant.
27 years on. So this is 27 years on from where we were, and we're still struggling compared to the covenant. So
Yeah, they talk about how the covenant can like exit slipstream and they'll be in perfect formation, and that's like just completely impossible with human technology to do something like that.
Also, this war has been going on for 27 years. Like, think about that. 27 years. That's a long time. I mean, that's
Yeah.
over a generation. Like when you calculate like demographics, a generation is like 20 years or so, right? This is a generational conflict at this point.
Yeah. Do they say how many outer planets or how many planets total humanity has colonized? Okay. Did they
So I could be wrong with this, like,
yeah,
but
that was going to be my next point.
I could, but I think from my understanding, when they first make covenant contact with the covenant, um, humans are on about like 700 or 800 planets,
Oh wow.
and
It's a lot.
by the very end
Yeah.
of the Halo trilogy, there's only a
Really?
couple dozen human planets left. From my understanding, I could be wrong.
Wow.
If I'm remembering correctly, it's something like that. Like, things are pretty desperate towards the very end.
That is shocking. Cause that was gonna be my follow up. Is like, does it really take them 27 years to kill all quote unquote outer colonies, right?
Oh, you know what I
But we're
really
talking
love is
about hundreds of planets being glassed to death. Like, yeah.
yeah, billions of people, and I think William brings that up. Something I really love is this coal protocol thing. It's like a lot. It's like the world building. And it's like, yeah, this thing does make sense that you want to do everything possible not to lead the enemy to Earth or the inner colonies. They have this protocol that no matter what, you have to destroy the NAVs databases. You can't run away to any inner colony. You can't run away to Earth. You got to just jump slip sprays into like somewhere random. I just think this whole coal protocol thing is pretty cool.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense from a military perspective. I guess that's also like a question. Like the Covenant, I would love to know how long the Covenant was watching humans, and to like what extent, right? Were they only able to see the outer colonies, and as they made their way over there, like how do they not know potentially where, especially if they learned our language, how do they not know where Earth is or like those
Yeah.
kinds of
Oh,
data
Is
yeah.
points
humanity
already?
is humanity just like kidding itself here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good
Um,
question. With their, I assume, advanced, technology and their advanced information gathering and whatever, that it's still 27 years on and they don't know where our home base is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting. But then again, we don't know where their home base is, so
I mean, we don't know shit. I mean, you're
the massive game of capture the flag, we just don't know where they hit it yet. So
so I'm gonna jump into chapter 17.
yep.
The synopsis is Commander Keyes, even without the help of a ship AI, prepares to take on a group of Covenant ships. Despite near mutiny from his navigator, Lieutenant Jaggers, he first fires a warhead in the opposite direction of travel and proceeds to lead the Covenant plasma missiles fired at him back towards the destroyer. Plowing into the destroyer, he breaks its shields and the plasma bolts annihilate its own ship. He slingshots around the planet of Sigma Octavius, don't know my Roman numerals, I think that's 4, and drawing the attention of the frigates towards him, sneakily detonates the nuke he shot initially. This disables their shields and he is able to use his magnetic accelerator cannons to take them out. The Covenant carrier scurries away, but not before launching drop pods upon the planet. He saved the planet from total destruction, but has damaged his ship. This was an awesome chapter, in my opinion. Yeah, any thoughts,
This
Charlie?
this is what they refer to as the Keyes loop, which is really interesting, combat maneuver that Keyes pulled off that killed, I think, 3 different ships or something, and
Yep.
just with one ship holding out on his own, something that clearly hasn't been done yet in this war. So
I'll add that, like, in the games, we're pretty familiar with Keyes, right? And so he seems very important, very powerful. This really puts him in Shine's light that he's kind of a fuck up until this point, right? No one really cared for him. He wasn't really a great commander. No one really thought he had a lot of strategy. And then he kind of like pulls all these tricks out of nowhere and gets what needs to be done.
Yeah, that's a good point because for it says that he was teaching at the academy, and they only pulled him because they're losing so many people, and that's how he ended up being the commander of the Iroquois. But really, he was they just had him teaching classes at the Naval Academy, if I'm remembering correctly. So I just love the dialogue that's happening in the on deck, where it's like they see the 4 ships and they're basically, yeah, like this is over, we're fucked. There's no way, there's absolutely no way we can take on 4 ships. I think there was like 2 frigates, a destroyer, and a carrier, and he destroys the 2 frigates, the destroyer, and I think the carrier is the one that gets away and leaves, drops some pods into the planet. But yeah, I don't know about you guys, but like just reading this, like the ship battle, it's so intense. Jagger is, basically being like, we're gonna fucking die. It's just awesome writing. I think Eric, he's a really, really good author. Just building the tension with the ship battle.
I could see this playing out like a scene in a sci-fi movie or a show.
Mhm.
You know, them like cutting to different people on board and the controls. Like 10 seconds till contact or whatever. Just people shouting back and forth. They definitely, you know, he wrote it well in a way that you know made it seem like very time sensitive. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
like
ship to ship combat it doesn't usually like it's not the most exciting thing to me, but the way that he wrote it was engaging for me. I thought, yeah, I
yeah.
agree with what everybody said. I think he did a good job bringing this to life and making what could be kind of a boring combat into something interesting.
Anybody else want to say anything about this chapter?
yeah, I guess James, you made a point. Like we know keys from the games and stuff like that, but looking back on it, I didn't really think much of Keys because he was just the guy on the ship where you enter the game and then he ends up. I guess I shouldn't spoil it, but we know what happens to Keys, right?
I forget. Don't spoil it for
Okay.
me.
All
Yeah,
right, then I
hold on.
can't. But essentially, what I'm saying is like I didn't think much of him, but it's cool that the book is definitely building him up to this, larger than life character, almost on par with Chief in a way. Like,
Yeah,
he's smart, you know, he can hold his own. So,
Yep. Yeah, like I mentioned, like the book definitely built up a lot of characters, especially obviously the key ones, but it gives a lot of backstory into everyone and how this war is kind of shaping them up to kind of what they end up being.
agreed. So the final chapter we're going to be getting into tonight is chapter 18, and the synopsis is: Keys and his ship, the Iroquois, are docked on the repair station known as the Cradle, repairing damages sustained from the battle. Finally able to relax, Keys considers what should be done about his compromised navigator. He considers Ensign Lovell out at the Archimedes outpost, who first came in contact with the Covenant group. Recognizes Recognizing his extensive previous experience and commissions, and considering what appears to be a deliberate sabotage of his career by a UNSC admiral, he decides to give Lowell a second chance. Keyes is visited by Vice Admiral Stratforth and is awarded his captaincy. However, the admiral's lack a concern with the Covenant's change in tactics makes Keyes suspicious. He secretly tracks Stanthorpe and finds that Oni are present in orbit. Curious indeed, but he has to turn his attention back to space as the Covenant are again returning with more ships.
I'll add one more point to that. Now they're
Yep.
returning, but Key's ship is not fully repaired, and he says, "F it, undock, let's go." Right?
Yep.
He's got the same drive as John to go head first in the battle, and try to kick butt.
So something this chapter goes into is how quickly what Keyes did is spreading throughout the fleet. Um, that it's boosting morale for everybody. Um, Stratford comes and visits him, basically tells him like we needed this win. So basically, Keyes is kind of turning into like a legend just for doing this one battle. That's how huge it is. What he did was able to just take on 4 ships and win, when usually, they brought early, I think it was like chapter 16, they brought up how they took Harvest, but the humans outnumbered the Covenant 3-1, and still the humans like lost most of the fleet, right? And it's like in this situation it's the complete opposite. And so it's like word spreading out, Keyes is kind of turning into a legend.
that's a good
Yeah.
point where, yeah, humanity is getting their butts whooped, in that same amount, but then one ship is able to take on, 3 times as many. So it's a nice little reversal of what has been going on for 27 years.
Yep.
That's a good point. You had mentioned something about Keyes. He was interested in why Stanforth was not really front about the Covenant in that sector, and I think it mentioned in the book, they had released drop pods onto the planet, which
Yep.
I think Keyes thought was a different sort of a tactic, a different approach than previous, so yeah, he has actually Keyes followed, or he has Stanforth followed, and that's how he found out that there's ONI. in the vicinity.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yep.
So what does that
Yeah,
mean?
He goes.
What does that mean?
We don't know yet.
Oh,
But
so
yeah,
something's going
the
on.
I mean clearly Avril and ONI know that the Covenant are doing different tactics, I think, right? So the difference here is the Covenant were glassing planets prior, right? Just annihilating everything. Here, they're saying drop ships instead of glassing, and to what purpose? I'm sure we'll find out in the next couple of chapters. So yeah, it's kind of like I'm sure that calls out to kind of more real military as well, right? These higher ups know more details, and there's not a lot of transparency. But yeah, it definitely shows that ONI is not liked with the UNSC, right? There's organization that has intelligence and then is very secretive and operative in that manner. So yeah, what other bits of info do they know that they're just keeping from everyone?
The planet that they're at is called like Chi Ceti 4 or something, right?
Chi City, what
That
up?
just makes
Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, Chi, yeah, Chi City. Is it numbered 4?
I think it's 4. Yeah. Just makes me wonder. It's like, all right, what's going on with this planet? What does the Covenant want with this planet? Why are they trying to like take it over? Why is Oni there? What's going on? There's a lot more going on than what Stratford Fourth let on to Keys.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of questions.
Well, I guess we'll find out on the next episode of The Great
Yes,
Journey.
the Great
The
Journey.
Great
Great
Journey.
Journey.
So thanks for joining me, going through chapters 10 through 18. I think we had some great discussions today. So yeah, thanks guys for joining me.
It was fun.
Thanks, Will.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Will,
Yeah,
for hosting.
and
Tell
yeah, what's up?
I said James has to tell us what's coming next.
Yeah. So I realized I didn't tell anyone what game we're gonna play, and because most people don't have multiple does everyone have everything downloaded with the Master Chief Collection or
I
Yeah.
have everything downloaded.
I thought I had everything downloaded. We'll see.
oh cool. So the game mode is called Escalation. Um, some people might know it in Call of Duty sense of gun game, but Escalation basically you're going to after you earn a point from killing someone, you rank up. They call it tiers, but you're gonna get a new set of weapons or a new weapon, and you have to kill people with that weapon, and then you'll progress through the tiers until the very end. And whoever whoever reaches the final tier and gets that final kill will win. So it'll be fun. We get to use a lot of different guns that we'll probably be really good at and really bad at. Here, we'll play the pit. That one's close quarters. That's fine. All right, let me invite everyone.
Sounds fun.
Has anyone played this kind of game mode before?
I don't think so.
Alrighty. Thanks for joining me for the Great Journey. This episode we went through. This episode we went through
Journey.
the Great
Great
Journey. We went through chapters 10 through 18. Next week we'll be going through, I believe, 18 to 28. So I'm excited
Right.
to see where that takes us.
19 through 26.
And yeah, 19 through 26.
Yep.
So I'll see you on the next one. Later.
Hey, this is Jim, the worst gamer and your favorite co-host on The Great Journey. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on most podcast platforms, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Great Journey Pod. And if you'd like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/The Great Journey Pod. Thanks for listening. We hope to see you on the next chapter of The Great Journey.
19 through 26.
You mean 27?
Yep.
We're doing knives, right? Hold on. We're doing knives, right? That would be 19 through
26.
19.
Yeah.
20. No. What? 20?
Yes.
No, we finished.
Caught some
Finish.
clear math confusion in that outro.
19 through.
Yeah, what the hell? James, shut
Hold on.
Shut up.
We'll record it. Hold on.
James. Just shut up.
20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26.
That would be 7 chapters, you
27,
math genius.
19. 27. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27.
All right, 8 chapters, including 19.
Now
It's
he's
19
taking
through
this
chapter
shit up.
26.
Fine, whatever. Charlie fucked up the math and it made me look stupid.
It's posted right here. Chapters 19 through 26. That
I
would
don't
be
see it in
pages
Discord.
203 to 299. All right? Welcome. Bye. Till next time,
Yeah.
good night.